I've been saying that. This team has to get after the quarterback. They haven't gotten after the quarterback in a long time without scheming and sending Logan Ryan or somebody. They need to front to get after the quarterback. I watched the Super Bowl last year. You said the whole time leading up to the Super Bowl, Bucs are going to win this thing because they're going to get after the quarterback. And now Mahomes proved that he's not human.
Right.
Where he's parallel to the ground after being hit and still hits a guy in the face mask 37 yards down the field.
That was insane.
So he's not human. But he's not human, and they beat a non-human. So most everybody else who plays quarterback in the league is human, and the Titans got to figure out how to hit these humans. So today was the big step of the first day of the rest of everyone's Titans life. And Bud Dupree, I wrote this down again because I didn't want to mess this number up. 5 years, $82.5 million.
Oh,
he got that in March after tearing his ACL in December. So they looked at everything, and then Mama Amy was like, once again, the magic checkbook. Okay, I got the checkbook out. Tell me what to put in here, J-Rob. Tell me the numbers. Tell me the name to write in. He said, Bud Dupree, $82.5 million. And she did it. That's got to be the guy, man. Today was the first step, literally, of him getting back on the practice field. So I'm fired the heck up about that.
Well, everybody should be, in that he did. What I'm understanding is he did a lot of the practice. It wasn't just, let's easy man just do individuals. I think he did a little bit of 7-on-7 and everything else. All the reports are saying that. And Caleb Farley did a little bit more, too, today. So 2 huge pieces to the defense, which I think the defense is already better. I mean, people are underrating Archery and his impact. And then naturally Sims is going to be better. You got some young players. They have to continue to grow and develop. But I think right now, if anyone wants to talk about who's won or lost the most, in practice, if you want to, have the offense versus the defense has won more days than the offense. It's kind of gotten back to like the old days. When I say old days, that means before pre-COVID.
Right.
That means if you have an off season, defense is typically ahead of the offense. So yeah, man, Bud Dupree, man, he, hey, I love him as a player. I was real curious on, how he would respond to an ACL. I probably would have signed him to a 1-year high price pay. I'm sure he had multiple offers, so that forced the Titans' hand. And then all of a sudden, now he's going to be an impactful player. But, man, he looked – did you see – I'm all big on please take this with a grain of salt. Did you see his thighs? Did you look at his thighs, his lower body power?
Yep.
It looked incredible. I was like, man, is he getting blood circulation to his brain? When he had the tights and then the pants cut off, and it kept like his quads were exploding. Like they looked massive.
Tell people your love of thighs.
Yeah,
what that means for football.
Yeah, big thighs, big butt, all those guys that play certain positions. That
you
just
like big butts, and you cannot lie.
Yeah. So, hey, man, he looks like he is raring to go. So they may have to slow him down because I think he is actually ready.
Okay.
I mean, then Lawan practiced a little bit more today. So all the pieces are starting to come together slowly. I mean, it looks like, knock on wood, that everybody's going to be raring to go, even if they don't want them to play, whether it's the first preseason game or not. They're going to be ready 2 or 3 games in to go full bore. So that's exciting for all the Titans fans, for sure, man. And then he sounded, really respectful, appreciative guy who's a blue-collar, hard-working guy. You get that just hearing him talk. And then he was talking about the mental side. That's what he says he has. And I can resonate with all of that because nobody ever talks about that. Nobody. All they want to see is the results. Well, there's a whole nother mechanism of the mental side that a lot of things go uncoached. And I'm not even just talking about the pro level. I'm talking about high school, middle school, even at the college level. So, man, dang, it was kind of interesting. This guy's a high-level player mentally as well as physically.
Your man Lucas Panzica, who does a fantastic job producing this show and Buck Reising show, says he's got a talk from Bud Dupree about the mental side of the game.
The skill set has come back. If you've been working, I've been working this whole off season, even when I was hurt, doing my skill development things. Keeping my game above. But the mental is the thing that you have to make sure that you got so you can go fly around. That's the new playbook, the new communication these guys are bringing in. Getting used to my teammates, knowing what my teammates to do, and that's what we need to be on the field for. That's the most important part.
Yeah. He said, so then I can play fast and just be me, really, at the end of the day, because you need to understand what your teammate has to do and what his tendencies are, what he likes to do in certain situations, where he likes to take risks. At the same time, then you can play off of them and still play fast. I mean, it's a split second, then you can miss a sack. I mean,
Right.
so yeah, so I love hearing that kind of dialogue. That's really important, but it goes underappreciated, and a lot of people don't talk about it.
You talked a lot about the mental stuff, and he basically echoed the thing you said of, if I know where I'm supposed to be and I know where other people are supposed to be, then I can just play. I don't have to, my wheels aren't turning anymore. I know exactly where I'm supposed to be and exactly what I'm supposed to do. So like you said, he spent a long time on that today. He talked about getting on the same page as teammates, talking about getting to know guys. So I know where they're going to be and what they're going to do and how they like to react to things. And when you're not on the field, I mean, all you can do is watch. Then you can watch tape and you can go, okay, this guy does this one.
Right.
But this,
It's nothing like playing with each other.
No.
And then Vrabel out there assisting them, kind of going through some rush moves and technique moves of what things they like to do, so he could add it to his game or not, however you want to do it. And so that was all kind of interesting dialogue. And people say, oh, that should be pretty quick. Nah, it doesn't happen like that, because first of all, there's how many plays in a playbook? There we go. We'll stop there.
Yeah.
Because then you have to know also how many offensive plays that attack it, and then how you play each of those in different defensive sets. So, I mean, he's going to be not only pass rushing, he's going to be a decoy. He's going to be maybe moving around on the line, maybe dropping in pass coverage. I mean, all these things are to try to set up for not only him to make plays, but also his teammates, because he's going to be the linchpin of everybody's going to be pointing at him and like, oh, okay, this guy's the Mike, but this guy's the guy's going to be rushing the passer. They didn't pay him 80-something million for nothing. So his job is to rush the. And early on in the season, this is how you play cat and mouse. Maybe you have him drop a lot in the first couple games because they go, oh, well, he's not rushing. He's not going to be too happy about that as long as they winning. And then all of a sudden, then he starts bringing on the heat. And then you complimenting one another on the other side. And with the D tackles now, I mean, all over the place. So I think the defense, I'm going to say it right now, it's not happenstance that the defense is, to me, in my mind, playing better than the offense. The defense will be the strength of this team this year. Yep. Yeah. They're going to play much more aggressive. They're getting way too many turnovers. That does not happen. I can't recall the last time that happened in a training camp. His defense is much improved.
Remember, we
maybe
had
more
2 weeks where they didn't pick off Marcus Mariota a couple years ago.
Right. I just don't see it carries over. Sorry, it does. Just like Tannehill threw another pick today.
Yeah.
Why is that happening? I want to know, because I'm a big Tannehill guy. I love Tannehill. He wasn't doing it last year. What's different this year? Is him getting a shot affecting his equilibrium in his brain to throw the ball out of bounds? I mean, all jokes aside, but, man, I don't want to see it. And I think you can hear Vrabel even a couple days ago kind of say, well, we got to know when to throw the ball out of bounds. I know Tannehill knows when to throw the ball out of bounds, but he didn't for whatever reason. He did not. It's almost like when you say, stay outside, you got contained. Yeah, throw the ball away. Being a veteran quarterback, that should be a no-brainer. They get the DBs up to speed. The defense is going to be getting after it.
Okay, and think about this.
It's crazy to say that now. Julio and A.J. Brown and Henry.
This is a big thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
And for people, you're new to the show, whatever, who's Blaine, who's Mickey, okay, Mickey talks a lot. Blaine played 10 years in the NFL. So when you start saying things like that and you've been out there and you've seen practice and you read all the stuff that's out there, now think about this. We watched week after week after week last year, and you and Kevin Dyson, Dr. Smooth, and me, we would do the pre and the post game, and we would come on in the post game and say, well, just think if they were 16th in the league in defense, how good this team could be. And they were scoring 31 a game. And we're here. Let's synchronize our watches. It's August 6th. And you're saying the defense could be the strength of this team.
Maybe, potentially. We still have Farley and Dupree to really impact the team.
Yeah.
And they're still balling. Yeah. They potentially could be they could be.
how much, and you mentioned him, and I mentioned him too when they got him. We were so fired up about this because you said he will be able to rush the passer from the middle of the line, talking about Danico Autry. Because you said, that's the thing about Big Jeff.
I like Autry.
Like, look at Big Jeff, stuff in the run. I see it. But he's got to be able to affect the passing game too. Then they get Autry, and you were like, uh-oh.
Right.
He could be the linchpin for everything that breaks off from there.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because it's going to make it a little bit easier, not only for Bud Dupree being signed, but Simmons now getting doubled down on. And that's what was going on. Then I think he didn't plan on, I'm going to be taking on two guys almost all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's tough now. I can't make plays. Well, the elite ones do, as Warren Sapp.
Yeah, ask him about
you think they were doubling them? You kidding me? Got to find another way. So I think he's planning for that, and probably a little more endurance and learning some more technique things to how to, rush the passer, because all the talent's there. That's the last breakthrough for me, to see him be a consistent pass rusher from that inside, D tackle position. Yeah, you got the shortest path to the quarterback. Let's see it all the time. All the time. I want to see havoc. And this is where D tackle, I like, when, even if you don't get the sack, I like the pressures.
Yeah.
Because it's right in his face. Ask Tom Brady where he doesn't want the pressure. Around his knees, up in his face.
Yeah, he'll throw that ball in the dirt so fast, or throw himself in the dirt so fast.
Remember when he just took a dive against the Titans?
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't want none of that.
Nope. Nobody wants any of that.
That was the only guy I wanted to sign over Tannehill. And you saw he got Super Bowl. Yep. Yep.
There's a reason he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
By the way, we're going to talk about this on the show at some time today. He went off on the Players Association. Tom Brady, Blaine came in days like, he's old now. He's got nothing to lose, man. He's saying everything he ever dreamed about saying. He is unleashing for signing that deal. Take a big reduction in the salary cap. And then Forbes comes out with a list. All the teams are up an average of 14%. That's the average. 14%.
And the salary cap went down.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Just funny how that works.
Yeah. That's not supposed to work like that.
No, it's not. It's not.
Somebody should be in that meeting with the PA like, what you talking about, Willie?
Nobody was in there.
What are you doing?
Because that deal went down. And then Forbes came out literally after a pandemic. We're still in it. Teams are up an average of 14%. And these are billion, like in B words, billions. Players can make in the millions. Teams make in the billions, worth in the billions. Cowboys are still worth more than anybody. I always say, imagine if they won consistently.
And by the way, the Cowboys-Steelers played, and, man, that was a –
You slogged your way through half of that.
Yeah, I stopped. I turned it to the Olympics.
You missed Josh Dobbs' touchdown.
I saw it on Twitter.
Okay. That's all there on Twitter.
All the UT fans, they got to get it in there.
I know.
Hey, you know what? And that was a great throw. Under pressure, got hit, and it was on the money. The other guys, Mason Rudolph may be his only competition as far as the backup. Both teams need to shore up their backup for their starters, Dak and Big Ben.
Speaking of backups, Titans have got a new backup quarterback. Buck Reising is set to join us next. We'll talk to him about Matt Barkley. We've seen him around here. Titans have played Matt Barkley a couple times. We'll get into all that and more. All the big Titan storylines coming up with our buddy Buck Reising next on Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone.
Coming up today on the 3HL.
You did it. You made it to the end of the week.
And what do we have for you on Friday? A lot of football talk. Chris Lowe will talk college football. And Joe Cower in Jacksonville talks Jacks.
And don't forget, we need you to call in. We want to hear Trash Talk Friday. It is Trash Talk Friday. I got Trash Talk on Friday.
Bring it.
Fraud.
Today, starting at 3 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
courtesy of our friends at Two Rivers Ford, home of the non-commissioned salespeople. Buck, how much do you enjoy the back and forth with people on Zone TV? We're finally getting the chance to do it, and I got to tell you, it's fun to see what everybody's talking about on there, although sometimes they go off on tangents and just talk to each other for a long time, which is fine too.
What do you mean, Mickey? I've been doing that for 2 years. I just have people mother bleeping me to my face on ABC Sports Prime Time.
Yeah.
You want to talk about drinking from a fire hose or whatever the hell it is these football people say. Yeah, I just get washed in sewage for an hour every night from Sunday to Thursday night. So Zone TV, they ain't nothing. They're way more diplomatic than my A to Z people are.
That is true. I've enjoyed some nice chat ups on those A to Z primetime broadcasts for sure. And you're right. People don't hold back. There's no censorship on that list for sure. They come at you pretty heavy every night.
Because I have zero censorship on there too, and it's the internet, so I could go back at them a little bit.
That is very true, and I know you do that. But now you get to go back and forth with us. We missed you last week, so we're back together on this Friday. How much better do you feel? We ended the last segment. We got into backup quarterback just a teeny bit, and I said, well, we can just start with this. We'll talk about this with Buck Reising next. How much better do you feel with Matt Barkley as your clipboard holder compared to Deshaun Kaiser as your clipboard holder?
Well, I guess the answer is push, because Logan Woodside is the one who knocks. Logan Woodside is the one who continues to survive. Logan Woodside has beat out Trevor Siemian, Cole McDonald, Deshaun Kaiser, and Matt Barkley has proven over the course of his career that he is not a great option, even in stand-in work. So until Logan Woodside goes down, I'm just going to keep on believing that Logan Woodside's the backup quarterback.
Well, I think there are guys like, say, Mason Kinsey or dudes that we know nothing about that we're going to know a whole lot more about after these preseason games, because they're certainly going to play a lot in 3 preseason games ahead of 17 regular season games. But honestly, we haven't seen Logan Woodside do anything in so long besides throw a pass on a fake play or kneel down in a couple of games. I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing what this guy looks like. And like you said, Buck, they've kept him over a bunch of guys, some who they just drafted and cut before they ever had a chance to do anything.
Yeah, no, they clearly trust him for a great many reasons. He understands the playbook. He's going on year 3 at this point with this particular team. We did see the only extended work that we've seen of him outside of what media gets to watch at practice is that 2019 preseason, when there was a legitimate conversation being had about who should be the backup to Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill or Logan Woodside. Look how that turned out. So with Woodside, he physically, there is nothing about him or his game that overwhelms you or that pops off the tape or on the screen or on the practice field. But he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't put you in bad positions, or at least that's what his MO has been so far through practice. And with a defensive head coach, the only thing that they fear more than turnovers is a 15-yard penalty. So he can navigate things well enough, if not physically find ways to come out and beat another team. He's not going to necessarily lose you the game if you put him in that spot.
Uncle Biggity Buck Reising joins us here on Blaine and Mickey on a Friday.
Did you just call me a biggot? What was that?
Biggity.
Either way, that sounds like a fat joke. Easy, Mickey.
I call you bigot.
Whoa, a little sensitive here, man. That's what happens when it rains in practice. Oh my!
Uber Eats just can't stop delivering.
You
Apparently,
thought you said bigot.
Biggity. I don't think if you know Mickey, I don't think you would think that would come out of his mouth.
Joined by known bigot Buck Reising.
As I say, at the headline of this interview, Mickey Ryan thinks I'm a bigot. Excellent.
Well, we'll definitely make sure we'll get that out there on social media. See where it goes.
Here we go in the
Since
chat.
You brought it up, but one thing that was big today was Bud Dupree was activated after PUP. Man, what was it like? Covering him, seeing him out there work and doing the different things in his interview, with the media.
So it's clear that he changes things for them up front as soon as he's entered into the lineup. And again, limited amount of work today, and that will be the case as they continue to bubble wrap their best guys returning from injury, whether it be Julio Jones or Caleb Farley, Taylor Lewan getting a little more work. They're all on these individual plans that Mike Vrabel will tell you about anytime you ask him about even, remotely anything to do with injuries. But to see him working with Vrabel in particular off to the side at different points during practice, during individual you can see the kind of explosion, the kind of hand fighting techniques that got him the payday that he rightfully deserved. I mean, he is going to play a variety of different roles within this defense, whether he's just coming off the edge, whether they move him as they do with Harold Landry off ball, which I know drives people crazy, but it's a part of what they want to do with more talent up front when you can drop a guy like that back into coverage or utilize him in a different way, because both Bud Dupree doing that in Pittsburgh and Harold Landry have experience and can hold up in that way. So he's going to – this defense already looks sharp, and they're playing against a bunch of backup offensive linemen right now with the shuffling parts that they have. That's probably their thinnest position so far. They rotated a few more guys in and out with IR and some signings yesterday when they added Matt Barkley. But certainly the kind of versatility that they're looking for and the kind of games that they want to play up front to dictate matchups and to create one-on-one matchups for whether it be Bud Dupree or Jeff Simmons or Harold Landry or any of these guys, he's going to be a critical part of this, and you can tell that his teammates recognize that as well, just having him out there during individual stuff.
Well, I don't know if it was just individual. I know you talked about, Farley and how massive in size and his height and his length there in Farley. But, man, when I look at Bud Dupree, man, his junk in the trunk and his thunderous thighs, man, did you notice that? I know you always pay attention to stuff like that, right, Buck?
Yeah, he's got a great butt, Blaine. That's what you're asking me.
But when you were talking about his explosion and that, I was like, whoa, his quads look, man, massive.
Oh, yeah. No, he's definitely built up. Hall of Fame butt, as far as I'm concerned. Larry Fitzgerald also could be considered for Hall of Fame butt status. The man has it going on. I'm sure grandmama's run up behind Larry Fitzgerald and Bud Dupree and grab a squeeze when they see him at the grocery store, things like that. But definitely when you watch him on film, I mean, he is one of the fastest. He's like top 3. I can't remember the exact time to get off that they have these guys timed out on, but he was one of the fastest linebackers, edge rushers off the ball of anybody in the sport last year. That's clearly been a big focus of his training as he's kind of gone through some adversity while coming through his rookie season and really up until his final year in Pittsburgh, trying to find a way to crack that deep rotation that they've had, and kind of disappointing Steelers fans with some of the stuff that's bogged him down throughout the course of his time there. But you can tell that lower body work is such a critical part of his training regimen, and certainly something that he looked to kind of preserve as he was going through the rehabilitation process at Exos.
No doubt about it. I naturally have to talk about, the defense. I don't know if you agree with this. To me, is ahead of the offense for whatever reason. Tannehill threw another interception today. Kind of take us through if you saw it or found out what actually happened out there on the interception that Tannehill threw today, if that's true or not.
Yeah, no, he threw his pick. That would make, if my count is correct, that would make 6 picks through 8 days of training camp for Ryan Tannehill, and he's definitely trying some things and forcing some stuff right now, and I think that's as much a product about, they're trained to not hit the quarterback right now, of course, but these guys are getting in his face pretty quickly to where he's having to make decisions that he otherwise wouldn't make. Now, he can perform under pressure with his mobility, and we've seen him make some pretty good throws, like a touchdown pass to Darrington Evans in the right corner of the end zone that he kind of fit the ball in there as he was rolling out to his right. But definitely right now they're trying some stuff that I think in game situations they wouldn't otherwise try, or at least they're at a part in the installation right now where they're trying to work on some stuff, and it's clear that the defense is more comfortable flying around out there than the offense is right now. Tannehill's going to be fine. I'm not going crazy about the interceptions, but the defensive backs have been really, really strong through these 8 days across the board, whether it be Amani Hooker, Christian Fulton, Farley getting some work in there in 7-on-7 for the first time today, and a couple nice breakups on Cam Batson and working against Nick Westbrook-Akina, future wide receiver too, of course. But I would say to you that they are ahead of the offense right now defensively. And there could not be any higher praise of a Titans defense coming off the year that they had than to say that they're ahead of an offense that's scored 30 points per game last year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's kind of crazy. We're on with Buck Reising with A to Z, as well as the Buck Reising Show right here on 104.5 The Zone.
That's right. He's everywhere. You mentioned Nick Westbrook-Akina, so I'll just ask you, stay in the wide receiver room. Which wide receiver or wide receivers are benefiting from the most? And I know he was back today, Josh Reynolds, but he missed 5 days of practice. Who took most advantage of their extra reps?
I'd say Marcus Johnson, certainly. I think he's a fringe candidate to make the roster. I know they're looking at him with punt return duties to find out if he can be justified as either the fifth or sixth receiver at the end of this pretty deep rotation. Cody Hollister, unfortunately, got carted off today. Looked like a left leg injury, so that probably bodes
he's one of my favorites
against him. So one of your favorites, Blaine?
Yeah, I really like him. I like his skill set. I like his size. I mean, if he can't be a receiver, man, maybe he should be like his brother and just go put on some weight and be a tight end.
Well, yeah, and that would solve all their problems at tight end instead of running out there with tree trunk Luke Stocker and Tommy Hudson fresh off a PED suspension.
How about your man Stocker saying, if they try to give me the ball again in a short yardage situation, I'm just going to call timeout for him?
Oh, my.
Hey, you know what? God bless Luke Stocker because he understands just how bad an idea that was from Matt LaFleur, the same way the rest of us do. Thank God it's taken him a couple of years to kind of come to terms with it and be able to laugh about it, because I swear I have never seen a more ridiculous play than that 4th and 2 carry with a dude who's never carried the ball or hasn't since high school.
Yeah, he had to have been looking at everybody like, are y'all serious? Okay, ready, break.
Well, he had the same reaction apparently we did. It just took him 2 years to be able to say it publicly. But I respect that, even as it's a little late in the game.
Hey, Vrabel talked about Dylan Radin some this week, about him needing more consistency, but then they're also talking about he's playing every position on the line. They're asking a lot of a young dude who played at a smaller school, and as Blaine said yesterday, he only played one game last year. They only played one game. So it's like, okay, get up to speed. You played one game. It was at 1AA, but we need you to play really well at every position on the offensive line. They're asking a lot of that dude.
Well, and maybe I missed it just because from my vantage point out there at the practice field, I haven't yet seen him play center. So, but perhaps that's something that I've missed while I'm stuck in my Bermuda Triangle of third field zone tent coverage where I'm sitting during practice nowadays. But with Radin's, that's their thinnest position is the offensive line, and he's being asked to do a lot. And by the way, he played exclusively left tackle at North Dakota State. Not like he was doing a bunch of different stuff at North Dakota State in the seasons that they played more than one game last year. Like, he's been exclusively a left tackle. And now not only are they transitioning him or trying to transition him full-time to right, he's playing guard. He's playing on both sides. Yeah. He's filling in for Ty Sambrailo. You've got Kendall Lamb on the left side while Lawan hasn't been doing a ton of work. So all these dudes are jumbled all over the place. That's why I'm kind of taking the defensive line stuff, as good as they look, with a grain of salt, because I mean these dudes up front for the Titans offense are pretty shuffled and jumbled right now. But I don't think it's I think you could have said the same thing about Nate Davis 2 years ago. I think he's going into year 3. Nate Davis was just kind of tossed out there in week 4 of that 2019 season after Jameel Douglas got ragdolled for 2 games in a row, and that terrible Thursday night football game in the rain in Jacksonville, and then against Atlanta. And Grady Jarrett, and was a developmental player, really, for the majority of his rookie year, and then came back last year and was Pro Bowl caliber. He's one of the best interior offensive linemen in the league. So I think you trust Keith Carter and Mike Sullivan, who's the assistant offensive line coach, to kind of make sure that he transitions in that way. And it's completely understandable what's happening with him right now. He's got plenty of time. Preseason will be big for him. Yep. But until they get right up front, it's he's really in a tough position to be able to find consistency when they're asking him to do so many things.
Buck Reising joins us, the Buck Reising Show, A to Z Sports, right here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Buck, we have to ask you about the most important thing going on in camp, and it's not Bud Dupree or Caleb Farley. It's the kickers. How are they doing? Have they improved? Or are they getting better? Or are they getting worse?
Okay, well, Blake Hallbill sucked. So on that front. I swear to God, Blaine, he hit one from 42 the other day that went through the uprights but missed the net behind the uprights, and I was still trying to figure out how the hell he hit that angle, and made it in. It It was the most bizarre kick that I've ever seen. So him off the roster is an improvement. Tucker McCann seems to have had better performances against Sam Ficken, who they brought in, who was with the New York Jets for a handful of games last year. Ficken has at least NFL experience, which is something that the McCann and Haubiel before him have not. So at least you feel a little better about a dude who's experienced in-game pressurized situations. He had a miss today from, I believe, inside the 50. I would have to go back and look at my notes on my phone, which I'm talking to you on my phone right now, so I'll be able to double-check that here in a second. But, I think it's better than it was. Whether it's good enough, we will find out very quickly in the preseason because there will be fans in the stands, and you can only kick so many times in front of your teammates with and trying to simulate an in-game experience to an extent. Except when they had fans out there last Saturday, some high school football players. I know Gerald McGrath was out there with the team that he coached, and these high school football players were chirping at the kickers when they were missing kicks. It made me laugh. So that's as close as they've been thus far.
So how's my man Christian Fulton been doing? The day I was out there, he did pretty well, had a pick, and should have had 2 picks, and then I think he got beat too, but then he responded. How did he look today, with now the pressure of Caleb Farley's out there? Hey, man, I've been balling. Well, you're not coming over here? This is my spot. We all know that.
Well, and that reminds me, thank you very much, that you were out there at practice and neglected to come over and say hi.
You were too far. I'd already reached my steps with my watch, and I didn't even go that far. You were way over to the – and I asked Robbie, I said, well, where is Buck? He said, oh, he's over, and I couldn't even see you. It was that you were that far. I couldn't even see you.
No, that's no excuse. At least you're Blaine out here giving me a hard time about missing last Friday. You can't even be bothered to take a few steps and come over to the tent.
Trust me, I didn't take too many steps. I stayed right there in front of the garage in the end zone and didn't move too far from the family tent.
That's all right. I still love you. So Christian Fulton's had a great camp. You can really tell how big a difference this offseason, this normalized offseason has made for him, the additional reps from things like the OTAs and voluntary workouts and mandatory minicamp, just having that experience and a year of conditioning and weight training to kind of make him look more physically NFL ready. I mean, it's really not as much, I don't think it's as much about him competing on the outside, Blaine, with guys like Caleb Farley and Jackrabbit Jenkins, who we can just go ahead and consider him a lock. Right. As a starting corner. I think it's as much about the slot because Elijah Molden has had a great camp too. And it's possible. I really think I was talking to Cosell about this on the podcast, the install, and I think that Elijah Molden really could push Christian Fulton in the slot to a point where you could see your second-round pick last year kind of out of the 3-man rotation unless they're playing more defensive backs in nickel and dime.
Well, wait a minute. See, so that's where Fulton can kind of get nuts and bolts here and bamboozle because is he getting any reps? I didn't see him get any reps in the slot. And then Molden's doing all the slot reps. Then Caleb Farley comes back. He's only playing outside. Then they say, okay, we're going to move you. And then you're just now going to start getting reps in the slot. Unless he's been doing it and I missed it.
And Dylan Radin's probably looked at Christian Fulton with this happen and said, tough bleep, I'm playing
all over the line.
What are you talking about?
I'm just saying he'll get nuts and bolts, and that's how you get beat out. That's what I'm getting at. He had no fair shot if he wasn't doing both at the time before Caleb Farley is ready because they're playing for Farley maybe not be ready, and then we need you ready on the outside. Then all of a sudden, we're going to move you inside. Inside is the hardest position. You need to be doing those reps too as well, even if it's walkthrough. I'm sorry. Or you can't go into that animal and be ready for that.
Oh, no, and you know this better than anybody, that in the slot you're communicating with all 3 levels of the defense, depending on where you're lined up, because you could be coming off the edge, you could be in there to help stop the run, you could be playing off. There's so much that goes into the slot specifically, which is why I thought it was interesting that they started him there in his rookie year, and then when he came back from injury, they had him predominantly on the outside. I mean, Blaine, you know this better than anybody. There's only so many snaps to go around in training camp, and they're well equipped if everything pans out with Farley and Molden in the secondary, but Christian Fulton, through really no fault of his own, could end up being jacked around a little bit, and that legitimately affects a guy's development, his mindset, how he handles that mentally is a conversation, that adversity that we have yet to see Christian Fulton really tested with. But now that Farley's out there running 7-on-7 and soon I'm sure 11-on-11 and getting, I don't know how much work they'll give him in the preseason, given that he's just gotten back. So maybe that's Christian Fulton's opportunity to shine. But in practice, there's only so many reps to go around.
Yeah, he's gonna get nuts and bolts.
Buck, on the show, there's only so many reps to go around, and you've used all of yours for this week, man. We appreciate the time. Appreciate our friends at Two Rivers Ford for making it happen. Stay dry. I understand it's raining a little bit out there, so stay dry, and we'll talk to you next week, man.
I was dry. I left the 3 other members of the Zone crew who set up the radio show and make the radio show possible out in the rain, and I scurried under the media pavilion selfishly. So I found a way to win. Darwinism, baby. We made it.
The team player, Buck Reising. All right, man. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye, boys.
All right, Bucky.
All right, Uncle Buck. Buck Reising joins us every Friday in the first hour of the program. When we come back, we mentioned this earlier. Tom Brady just slammed the NFLPA. The TV deals, the Forbes money, it's all there. What's down? The salary cap. And he had something to say about it. We'll hit you with that next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Getting you geared up for another Titans season.
Touchdown, Titans!
On your home for Titans football and flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
Greta Van Fleet. I'm going to this show tonight. My daughter. We're going to see Greta Van Fleet. It's at this new amphitheater, Blaine, that's between, I guess, Thompson Station and Franklin. We had a caller earlier this week who called in and said,
Talking about that was the Falls y'all should go to?
well, no. We went to a waterfall yesterday, so it's just it's our weekend here, I guess. We had a caller who said, hey, man, if you come to this amphitheater, it's hard to get in and hard to get out. And I'd forgotten all about. We're going to be there tonight, or I would have asked him a lot more questions. But you got any tricks on how to get in and or out of this new amphitheater down there, let me know, because I got to get down there. You can hit us up in the Zone TV chat or tweet me. At Blaine and Mickey will always get to me, or at Mickey Ryan 1045. Or you can tweet Blaine about anything at BBishop23. Maybe you want to tweet him about what's going on with Tom Brady, who just turned 44, by the way. 44. And is still playing in the NFL and still playing at a high level.
Amazing.
At 44 years
he said
old.
His brain is pliable, though. Remember, he said that. That was laughable to me. I still laugh today when I'm just saying it. He said his brain is pliable.
Well, I mean, maybe his is.
Maybe it is. I'm starting to believe him.
And here's the thing. Like, he's in a commercial for Subway. And at the end of the commercial, it's like him and Steph Curry, and there's a bunch of famous people. And one of them says, you don't even eat this. And he's like, yeah, it's a commercial. How was your diet discipline when you play? Because they say, like, he won't eat a Snickers bar, a piece of white bread. He won't eat strawberries. I mean, how disciplined were you diet-wise? Because that's something I struggle with. You've known me a long time. I got a pretty good metabolism. And I do okay. But there's just sometimes I just want some French fries or potato chips or ice cream, and I eat it.
Well, I think he's a little over the top. And, he's got the TB12, and it's more of kind of I don't want to call it vegan because I don't really know enough about it. But I think it's about, the way the things you eat and the things you put in your body is going to naturally enhance your performance. And for a guy of my stature as a player, I wasn't too concerned because I wasn't a, crazy eater anyway, to be honest. So if I wanted to have some McDonald's or whatever it may be from fast food, I wasn't too concerned that that's going to affect my play if I'm just doing it once a week. I was pretty disciplined on how I ate and did my protein shakes and everything else. So, I still went out to nice steak dinners and everything else. So I felt like you needed every kind of protein known to man. You put in your training, for me, wasn't as big. I think it's a big deal now, much more so than during my era. But I think quarterbacks, certain positions, if you're trying to lean out, or, some positions you're trying to get bigger. It just depends on where you're at in your career. But naturally, I think what he's doing is actually keeping him sharp mentally, and I think that's probably the biggest thing for him as a quarterback. I think that's what happened. I think him and Phil got really close after they played in a tournament a couple years ago that was televised, and then they got close, and I think that kind of helped Phil start eating a little bit better, and then all of a sudden we start seeing his game, even at his age, translating to better performance and concentration. And when I say that, I'm talking about for longer periods of time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it didn't take long for him to, not a long period of time for Tom Brady to blast the NFL Players Association. He did this on his Instagram story. There was a Forbes story. NFL franchises had increased in value despite the pandemic, and the average was 14%. And Brady put this on there. Basically, he called the NFLPA ignorant because they allowed the mammoth TV
his
deals.
Brain is pliable. Remember,
it is. Well, he wanted his wallet to be more pliable. The TV deals got announced after they set the salary cap. And if you remember, Blaine, I kept saying these are going to. It went from like, what was it, $3.2 billion to $4 billion, or it was. Mm-hmm. It was just crazy how much this went up, billions. And this is what he said. This is his words. The salary cap dropped 20%, and the new media deals were announced the day after the 2021 salary cap was set. NFL players better wake up. Then he added the NFLPA, and then he said NFL players are ignorant. And this is Tom Brady, the GOAT of NFL players, calling his peers ignorant.
Yeah. That's kind of why I just start not having a voice. And I wasn't Tom Brady for sure. But I'm going to read something that I tweeted out a couple days ago, and this kind of sums up what you're saying. Tom Brady has a blunt message for fellow NFL players. Time to fire D. Smith, Ed Tom Brady said. Eric Winston elected D for life, and J.C. Treater boost, which is the offensive lineman, D's money after his recent failures. Brady is the adult and should help straighten this sewer up. This was a quote, not actually from him, but about this whole situation. And I don't know if he thinks about what he said is going to help the situation, but I think it's going to bring awareness, a lot more eyeballs. And what happens is you're really, the Players Association, it happens not intentionally, by the way, that the younger players are kind of pitted against the older players, and there's much more younger players in mass, in numbers, than older players. So when you go to vote and you're trying to educate them on certain things, they're not probably hearing it because they want to just get their money at this time.
Right.
And we all went through that cycle. But it's the more that you are open to listening and to learning, I think where it could at least be a little bit more level playing field as far as just the thought process and how they should be thinking. And then, the leaders are only doing what the players vote for. So to me, there's a certain part of that. It's not all their fault, but they are a part of in the blame too as well. Yeah.
Well, they got blasted by their 44-year-old oldest man in the NFL by a mile.
And until quarterbacks start speaking up about it,
right,
will anything get done anyway? I've always said that.
Yeah.
The more it's expected, the more money you make, the more I feel like you should have an impact on affecting decisions within not only your association, but the league.
Well, like I said, when this happened, I said, how in the world, because it went up some from last year, but I said, how did it not just go back to where it was supposed to be? What are we doing? Because they're making more money. And here we are. It went down, and then it basically went up to even where it was 2 years ago, I think, or about there.
What do I always say, Mickey?
I know.
The owners always win. The billionaires there's a reason why they have a B in front of their name, and the players are the worker bees, and they have the M's. It's you got to realize that we stay here, and this is how we keep you here.
We're all here. We're going to be here for another hour. Hour 2 of Blaine and Mickey coming up, including Mike Wilson from Knoxville with the latest on Vols practice and how is fall camp going. We'll find out in about 20 minutes.
J. Martin Ramon, getting ready to eat some Titans credit pie.
How do you think the credit pie goes over the last 2 years for the Tennessee Titans? How does the pie get divvied up?
J. Martin Ramon, Jason Martin and Ramon Foster, Monday mornings starting at 6 on 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey. By the way, Lucas, thanks for sneaking in. The Cardinals got swept by the Braves over the last 3 days. I like how you just stick that in the in the update there, like I'm not going to notice. By the way, we call
them Braves.
And Braves fans are like, yeah, we're back over 500. Well, that means the Cardinals are back under 500. I've never seen two teams on a seesaw this year like the Cardinals and the Braves. One goes over 500 and the other one loses. Then the other one goes over 500, then the other one loses. And then this time it's the Braves. The Cardinals put their closer in last night, and he walked 4 guys in a row before they could get him out. He walked 4 guys in a row. I mean, it was like Little League, where if you ever played baseball when you were a kid, and there'd be like the guy pitching on the other team, and the coach would be like, do not swing. Do not swing until he throws a strike. And do not swing again until he throws a second strike. And then if you want to swing to keep him striking out, but you're not going to strike out because this guy's going to walk everybody he sees. That was literally a professional pitcher last night from the St. Louis Cardinals. That was their closer, who was an all-star, who could not get – it was the 8th inning. They had 2 outs and 2 strikes, and the Braves went on and beat the crap out of them from there.
I apologize. My condolences.
So that's how you start the last hour of the show, Lucas.
That was fine. I get up. I'm a Braves.
Had to get it in. The Braves have been fighting that 500 mark all season. Have they been over 500 at any point this year?
Yeah.
Braves fans are going to come at me. But
No, I think they get there like every other week or so, and then something happens and they go back. And then they get back again to 500.
The fact they're 1.5 games back of the Mets right now is pretty wild. I feel like they were 5 games back like a week ago.
Well, at one point, it seemed like the Mets were like, okay, well, this is over with, and it's just never over with the Mets because they're going to find a way to make things interesting. But we call our shot again, and you can hit us at Blaine and Mickey. You can call a shot on the Zone TV line. You can call us on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, 615-737-1045. We'll do that in the last segment. But my shot that I call might be that I stop watching these stupid Cardinal games because they just piss me off every night. Sorry. But that's what you're doing, Lucas. He's like, oh, I'm going to mention this in the update. I'm going to get Mickey all mad.
Really, I just wanted to get in the gold medal stuff with USA basketball.
He really wanted to bring the H-Town Mickey out. That's what he's looking for.
Nothing brings H-Town Mickey out like incompetence in his baseball team. Because here's the thing. We don't have Major League Baseball here. So that's like a life raft for my brain because all the other sports we got to think about all the time, like the Titans. Then the Jags cut somebody. I got to know who this is because we'll talk about it on the pregame show and all this stuff. Baseball to me is
that what you do?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what I depend on you to do because I can't remember everybody's name.
Well, I try to remember their names. So baseball is like a life raft because and I'll say this: we're the luckiest people in the world because our life is to talk about sports.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, none of us. There's 3 people whose voice you hear on this show. None of us would ever complain one day about what we get to do for a living. We know how lucky and how blessed we are, but it's like anything else. Like my friends who are songwriters, I'd be like, man, I'd give anything to be a musician, songwriter. They're like, no, you wouldn't because then it's your job. Mm-hmm. You know, I got to crank out 3 songs before the end of the week. And I'm like, oh, I wish that was my problem. They're like, no, you don't. It's different when it's your job. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a different thing. But baseball is like a peaceful island that I take myself to. I put my son to bed at night, and then my daughter realizes because she's a teenager, okay, I'm done with you guys for the rest of the night. You know, give me an hour of Instagram time and let me go my separate way. So I'm just like, yeah. And I go down to the couch. I click on the Cardinals game.
You got control of the remote, huh? Wife sleep.
Yes, she goes to bed early. Total control. And they can't even throw strikes. They hit people. They've hit more people. They've hit more people with the bases loaded, I think, than any team in the modern era of baseball. They're just awful to watch. So imagine the one peaceful place that your mind has to go, and there's nothing but turmoil and just discombobulation there all the time. I've just had all I could take. I'm mad as heck, and I'm not going to take any.
So every Tennessee fan for the last 20 years?
Honestly, man, we got Mike Wilson on next, and Bud Dupree he's back in practice.
That's where I get peaceful. I just think about Bud Dupree's big, thick thighs.
So and Blaine did a nice long. Okay, Blaine's a thigh guy. So Bud Dupree's practicing. They got a new backup quarterback. It's Matt Barkley. Can he pass Logan Woodside? I don't know if classic Joe Namath could pass Logan Woodside at this point. He's entrenched himself there in a way that no one seems to pass.
He did have knee issues though.
Joe Namath at the end he did. Yeah, he did. But this whole baseball thing with the Cardinals, again, it's just your one place where you can kind of go and there's peace, and you don't have to cover the game. You don't have to talk about it the next day. And you can just watch. And then it just lets me down every night. And then Lucas brings up Tennessee fans, this 20 years perpetual rebuilding, then another rebuild, then another coach, and another rebuild. And the crazy thing about this, Tennessee has all the money in the world. They have all the resources in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the facilities in the world. And if you're listening, you're like, I'm an Ole Miss fan. I'm a Vanderbilt fan. I'm a, Alabama fan, whatever. Tennessee has all the fans in the world. They have tons of great fans who spend money, Blaine, even if they're terrible. They go to Knoxville and they go to the game and they pay money for the tickets and they do all that stuff.
Well, they paid the party. Yeah, they paid the party.
And that only leaves one thing. If you have all the resources, if you have all the facilities, and you have that level of fan support, that means there's been complete incompetence at the top level. That's what it is. And Chris Lowe has said that when we were on 3HL. Chris Lowe would come on and we'd go, why are they having so much trouble? He'd say it's because they have so much instability at the top. The president changes and the chancellor changes.
Well, now it's stable, though. So it's
stable now.
See what it goes with
now you got Randy and Dondi, and you got Randy White. So you got stability. You finally got a chance, if you're a Tennessee fan, where maybe you can pull the covers out from over your head and look out and see if there's some light out there in the distance, because it does seem like they have stability there. But I told you, somebody tweeted the other day, it's like, name something in sports that you're sick of. And I saw a Tennessee fan had quote tweeted that and said rebuilding. That would drive me bonkers.
But you have stability till you don't. I mean, how many Tennessee fans thought they finally had stability with Philip Fulmer at the helm?
You know what, Lucas? That's such that's such an interesting question, because there were Tennessee fans who I knew who are diehard Tennessee fans that love Philip Fulmer that said they didn't hire the right guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people said, Coach Fulmer's back, all is well.
Well, they thought that he was the coach. I mean, he's not the coach, he's the AD.
Right. But I knew hardcore Tennessee fan. And when all this happened and they hired John Curry, I would have hired David Blackburn. I was on the record of saying that. I would have hired David. David Blackburn had been in the building since 1992. It's like he had gone through this management trainee program of how to be the AD at Tennessee. And what they do, they don't hire him.
I think a lot of Tennessee fans thought Philip Fulmer was the second coming of Doug Dickey, the coach turned athletic director. Yeah. And, of course, Doug Dickey oversaw the best period of Tennessee football.
What year was that? See, that is what the problem is.
Yeah.
Not too many coaches are now becoming ADs in this modern era.
Yeah, Barry Alvarez, and then who else? Like in the modern era.
It's not that many. It's small.
Okay, biggest Tennessee fan, close friend of mine just said, you were talking about me. That's the way I felt.
There you go.
So Tennessee fans weren't totally sold on Phil. They weren't totally sold on him. I mean, there were people like, look, man, I love Phil. Vol for life of all Vol for lives. But he ain't ready to be the AD in the year, what was it, 2018 when he took over, whatever it was.
18.
I knew hardcore fans who loved Fulmer, who even thought he got screwed the first time he left, who said, you got to leave that and just let him be the – I said, make him some kind of ambassador where he's just Coach Fulmer. He goes to golf tournaments. He shakes hands. He kisses babies. He takes pictures of people. Pay him well. Hey, man, we got a big fish in Dallas who's an alum. We think he'd give $1 million. Coach Fulmer, would you fly and see him? Absolutely. I'll go see him. And then you send Philip Fulmer, and Fulmer closes it. You could give him a percentage of what he made. He could have been
a lifer. He's always going to be a lifer. But
right.
He could work for the university forever.
But, like, my man had to carry his stuff out at the back door in a box when Randy White showed up.
Escorted out. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Sorry, Danny White, right?
Danny White. Sorry, I'm thinking of
Danny White.
I'm thinking of Randy White, the former Cowboy, the Manster, who was half man and half monster. The Manster. Yes, Danny White. Sorry,
Danny White. Because when you said, I said, I think that's Danny.
Well, there's Randy Boyd, so Randy and Dondi, but then I said Randy again instead of Danny. Danny.
That's why I got you to do the names.
And then I totally botched that.
I think because you have the Smashville hat on today. It's cutting off
Randy, Danny, and Dondi. Leading the charge.
That sounds like a 60s folk band. All right, we'll ask Mike Wilson. I'm going to get his name right. Mike Wilson.
No, bye.
Bye, Mike Wilson. Well, we will say bye to him at the end. That's his Twitter handle. He joined. We'll talk Vols next. Stop that.
This is where the Titans play. 104.5 The Zone.
guys' hand on the trigger finger as Mike joins us. What's it like to actually get to see some of practice? Is it like the Red Sea parting? I mean, what's it like to see people practicing football to have something to actually talk about again or write about?
It feels naughty. Like it feels like I'm breaking some rules or something.
Naughty.
Like it feels like I'm 13 years old racing to get the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue from the mail before my parents got it. That's what it feels like, is I'm not supposed to be able to watch this or see this. It's wonderful. I mean, we haven't seen, live football outside of a game at Tennessee since fall 2019. I mean, there's one practice in spring 2020. So this has been really cool just to get a glimpse inside of it and kind of see what's going on with the new program.
Mike Wilson joins us. All right. This is Coach Eckler for people who follow him on Twitter, but Blaine was like, I have to ask him about this coach. So let's give people a little taste of the things that he's been saying and skillets and all sorts of things and farts. And anyway, here's Coach Eckler.
You don't have to be a real make you miss type guy, but you got to be a guy who can run through the doggone smoke. You remember Days of Thunder? You remember when he dropped the hammer and went through the smoke? That's what the video I show him. I mean, that's what kickoff returns like. I mean, you got bodies everywhere, man. And if you're scared, you better call 911. You got to run through the damn smoke.
What about a
punt returner? Now you look for a fart in a skillet. You look for a fart in a skillet. A guy who can make you miss, Guy one cut, give vertical, that elusive guy. So it's a little bit different. And, punt return, it's not like kickoff. You don't have everybody coming down full bore. I mean, you got windows and you got space and you have levels. Kickoff return.
So there you go. I'll pass it over to Blaine because he has questions about skillets and farts and Days of Thunder as Mike Wilson joins us from the Knoxville News Sentinel.
Yeah, Mike, I use your own terms. What is a fart in a skillet? I'm trying to imagine, is that some form of air that escapes the skillet when you're cooking? I don't know. Where did that phrase come from?
I don't know. I mean, the phrase I know is don't defecate where you eat. And apparently that's not something that Mike Eckler really cares about. That was different.
Did you really learn it as don't defecate?
No, but I'm trying not to get y'all in trouble right now.
Oh, man.
Thank you,
that was
Mike.
good job. Good job, Mike. I knew what you meant.
Yeah, that phrase caught me off guard too. The sheer image of a fart in a skillet and just I guess the point of that was elusive. Was probably the root meaning was you're looking for someone elusive, slippery, can't take hold of, which if I had to guess what a fart looked like in a skillet, it would probably be hard to capture. So that's what I think it was going for.
Oh man, I think he felt like he was talking to a recruit or something. It was just getting him jacked up.
He's fascinating. First media session we had with him, he talked about he wakes up at 3 a.m., doesn't need coffee, drinks Red Bulls all day. Loves his chili hot. Got to have your chili hot was a big thing. He told his linebackers at Nebraska in like 2010 if they played in a spring scrimmage, he would run a marathon afterwards. So he did. And then got picked up by a cop on the side of the highway because he wasn't allowed to run on the highway, but he was. The guy's fascinating to have in a media environment.
All right, we started off with some fun. Well, now let's get into how is Joe Milton and the rest of the quarterbacks doing. And I say his name because he's the one transferred to the end that they went out and got. I would think he is their guy unless he can't get the job done. So you tell me.
Yeah, we saw about an hour of practice Wednesday, Friday, about 20 minutes today. The arm is what stands out about Joe Milton. I mean, the ball comes out a little bit differently, but I think that was also kind of known with him coming from Michigan. He has a big arm, but that's never been the problem. The problem has been accuracy and touch with that ball. So that's kind of the question mark there. But certainly when you see a team go out and get a quarterback after spring football, when you already have 3 scholarship quarterbacks and kind of a fourth at that point with Caden Salter, who was kind of in limbo, and you go and get another one, and that player chooses to come here as well when he surely could have gone to a less crowded situation, I think it kind of tells you the viewpoint on that player. But it does seem like the reps are, at least when we're in there, the first day was was Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton with the 1s, Brian Maurer, Harrison Bailey with the 2s. Next day it flipped. So they're giving all these guys a decent look at this point, it appears.
So right now, what does he look like? Everybody's talking about Joe Milton and his size. I mean, is he that big of a specimen? I mean, what was it? One of the Mays brothers said that he thought he was a pass rusher or something?
Yeah, I thought he was a defensive end. That was kind of I'll tell you, that's one of the best parts of having in-person interviews back is the fun questions like that. That's kind of where I went the other day, was asking a bunch of players what they thought when they first saw Joe Milton in person. And yeah, Cade Mays said he thought he was a defensive end. Jacob Warren, who's a 6'6", 250-pound tight end, goes, yeah, he's as big as I am. He's huge, just a big guy. I mean, physically in every way, looks like just an absolute behemoth out there. Which is interesting for a quarterback, certainly what you can do with that in terms of him being mobile and making plays. But yeah, the arm and the size certainly stand out in a different capacity than what you usually see at quarterback.
No doubt. We're on with Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel. I guess so far, and I know it's early, but where does there look to be some concerns, I guess maybe holes in the roster so far, if you see any at all?
Yeah, it's hard to tell this early, I think, and it's hard to tell from what you see since it's obviously the team going against itself. In terms of roster concerns, though, I think just the front 7 is such a question mark in terms of production. In terms of names and who's going to play, it's not a question mark. Tennessee returns a whole bunch of seniors, that COVID seniors, I guess you'd call them, guys that came back this year on the defensive line. An inside linebacker has always kind of been the issue since Henry To'oTo'o and Cabarrus Crouch left. Juwan Mitchell, Jeremy Banks, some other guys in the mix there. But the production they're going to get from those positions is really interesting because this team couldn't pressure the quarterback last year. So you see a team bring all of its players back, but the players were unproductive. So it's definitely a question mark of what you're going to get there.
And where do you see the biggest strengths, I guess, before I pass it back to Mickey?
Yeah, I think the skill positions have a lot of potential. I think, Tennessee has no experience at running back. Jabari Small has very few carries, but looks like a guy who can make some plays. Tyon Evans is a running back there from JUCO. Looks like a guy who can make plays. And I think they've got a lot of wide receiver options. Jalen Hyatt, Bayless Jones, Cedric Tillman look like kind of probably that top group by the time the dust settles out of the preseason. But Javante Payton, Anderson Kobe, some guys they brought in this offseason look like guys who can play. Jimmy Callaway, Jimmy Holiday, some speedsters. So I think they've got a lot of options at the skill positions. And I think, too, if Dane Davis proves to be a reliable left tackle, that Tennessee has the chance to have a decent offensive line at that point.
Well, with Mike Wilson with the Knoxville News Sentinel.
Yeah, let's just lead right into that. How is the offensive line falling into place right now?
Yeah, I think the way it was the other day was Dane Davis at left tackle. I'd like to say Jerome Carvin at left guard, Cooper Mays at center, blanking on who was at right guard, and then Cade Mays at right tackle. But I think the nice thing there, Cade Mays is a guard or a right tackle, so seeing him fall into that spot is good. Left tackle has been a question mark on this team for a while, even with Wanye Morris and Jameer Johnson as starters, who both transferred out, obviously. But they haven't had that bookend left tackle guy. And Dane Davis is a former walk-on who emerged in the spring and is taking first-team reps. So if he can kind of be that guy, I think that allows that unit to solidify, because Jerome Carvin is unheralded as a player as Tennessee has. He's been a really, really consistent guard for them throughout his career.
Mike, is the walk-on coming out of nowhere, is that a testament to, like, this guy was just way under-recruited, or is it like they just don't have anybody better than this guy right now?
Time's going to tell on that. Okay. He did get put on scholarship in December before Jeremy Pruitt was fired. So the previous staff obviously felt that he was a guy who was going to contribute as well. But yeah, I mean, I was at Michigan State when Jack Conklin kind of went that path. And I'm not saying Dane Davis is a future top 10 pick in the NFL draft. But sometimes those guys just on the offensive line develop late, grow late, kind of grow into that body and that strength and frame late. And that could be the case with Dane Davis. I honestly don't know, but yeah, it wouldn't be the first time that an unheralded walk-on lineman turned into a starter at tackle in college football.
Well, I remember the late, great Brandon Burlsworth, too, who even has an award named after him, rest his soul. So what is going on with D. Beckwith? I saw somebody who was trying to compare him to Derrick Henry, and they don't need to do that because they're different people. And Derrick Henry's like 2 inches shorter and probably 25 more pounds or more of just freak, like chains and medicine balls and giant weights and all the things that Derrick Henry does. So what exactly is D. Beckwith besides a really tall running back right now?
Well, I think you described what he is right there at this point. He got a few snaps late last season at running back. He's a unicorn, I guess it's kind of that thing. And I think that's why the Derrick Henry thing probably got thrown out there, is just from he doesn't look like a running back. He looks like a guy who could play tight end, maybe wide receiver, but he's just very tall, very large. He walked by us while we were doing media yesterday, and I literally whispered to the person next to me, "Great googly." He's just a large person. So it's very different to see that. But he is sticking running back right now. Certainly it's an interesting option at a position, like I mentioned, where Tennessee has, I think, a lot of talent, albeit unproven talent. But he's in that mix. He's in that mix to be that third, fourth guy, along with, Jalen Wright as a freshman and T. Hodge, some other guys. So he's in that mix for now.
Mike Wilson joins us, Knoxville News Sentinel. He is at by Mike Wilson if you want to follow him on Twitter.
Well, Mike, naturally always is going to be interesting to talk about the quarterback situation since it's unresolved as who the starter. Has Coach Heupel talked a little bit about how he's going to go about this process of kind to determine, or a timeline even, when he wants to name a starter?
No, at media day the other day, I think Tuesday, he expressed that he'd like to have a starter for week 1. He didn't completely shut down the idea of playing multiple guys, that there might be opportunity there for other players, but in terms of, whittle it down from 4 to 3 to 2, wasn't really an indication there. But a lot of the comments were what we heard in the spring. It's going to come down to trust. Who do they feel they can roll out there that can execute the offense, make good decisions, take care of the ball, all of those things that you typically hear coaches say about quarterback play. But yeah, in terms of a timeline, they expect to have a starter for week 1. Will we know that ahead of time? Probably, because it's the Knoxville media market and that's how it kind of goes. But yeah, they plan to have a guy, and whether
just
that's
one
the
guy?
only guy who plays or not, we don't know yet.
Yeah, just one guy, or is he into maybe 2 guys the first week? It is Bowling Green, by the way.
It is Bowling Green, and yeah, you don't know what you're going to see with that in terms of what the scoreboard looks like if you just play other guys to play them, or if you're going into that game planning to play multiple guys just to give them a shot in a live game. But I think what's really interesting with this Tennessee quarterback battle is all 4 guys have starting experience. That's not something you typically get in a quarterback battle with anything more than 2 people. Typically, one of them is a freshman or a redshirt freshman who's never played. But all of Tennessee's guys have started. I think Bailey started 3 last year. Maurer started 4 as a freshman. Obviously, Joe Milton started at Michigan, and Hendon Hooker has maybe 12, 15 games worth of starting experience at Virginia Tech. So it's kind of a different battle in that respect. And they've got game tape on all of these guys already, which definitely makes it interesting to evaluate them as well.
No doubt about it. Good stuff there, Mike. I guess lastly for me is what should be the expectation for the fan base? Because I think they can win 6 or 7 games if they, just play solid and, maybe not nothing drastic as far as injuries or anything else. What are your thoughts on what the expectation should be this first year?
Yeah, I think anytime, you're at Tennessee, you should be making a bowl game. And every time a first-year head coach gets in there, you want to get that level of momentum. I think it's achievable. There's certainly swing games on that schedule. I think Pitt is one of those early in the year. You win that game, the outlook changes in terms of how many wins you can get to. But you probably have to win that one if you're going to reach a bowl game. So it's a nice non-conference schedule. It doesn't really have that brutal game that you might have seen last year if Tennessee had still played Oklahoma as scheduled. It doesn't have that. So you could see them win 4 non-conference games. Then you just got to win 2 in the league. So we'll see how that plays out, but I certainly expect them to have a shot at 6 because they're going to be able to score some points. But I think what you said about injuries is key. This team's going to be pretty thin at some positions, especially defensively. I think linebackers specifically in terms of talent and experience, and a couple of the wrong injuries can really derail a team that doesn't have a lot of depth. And Tennessee, to me right now, tight end is another one of those spots where there's just not a lot of depth and not a lot of room for error. And I think that's how this season is going to unfold for them, is not a lot of room for error.
Well, naturally, since you brought up the injury, no major injuries or any injuries at this point right now that you can speak of.
Not that I know of, which certainly try to avoid those in preseason camp. That's, I think, every coach's goal. They probably say that every year is try to get out of here with all your players healthy and ready to go.
Well, with Mike Wilson, Knoxville News Sentinel.
So, Mike, everybody was excited about transfer portal guys coming to their school, and I know Tennessee fans took a beating seeing so many guys leaving that thing, but they did get some guys back. Which transfer portal guy has looked the best so far?
TP.
Ooh, there's a lot to choose from. That's
like, 20 guys now.
Okay.
There is a lot. I've been impressed with Javante Payton, a Mississippi State wide receiver. He's fast. That group, to me, like I mentioned, I think there's a lot of options there, so I'm not sure the splash that's made there for him. I think Byron Young is not a transfer portal guy, but a JUCO guy. He's going to make a big impact. So portal guys, I mean, Hooker or Milton is probably the cop-out answer, but the one I'm going to go with anyway, because I think those are probably the two guys with the inside track to start at this point. Just looking at, 3 days worth of it, it's not a lot to go off there. But I thought Hooker, he's kind of got the best balance of everything to me. And Milton obviously flashes in some very exciting ways. So both those guys came through the portal, so there's got to be a shot there. But Caleb Tremblay is another one on the defensive line I think is in that mix. So I gave you 5. That's how I'm going to approach that question.
That's fantastic. The more the merrier. All right, before we let you go, this name, image, and likeness thing, I've enjoyed reading about the different things, and there have been some products or places where I'm thinking, I don't even know what that is that this person is sponsoring, but sometimes there's just a match made in heaven. And to see John Fulkerson nailing down that Powell's endorsement in year 6 on Rocky Top just tells me all is right with the world in some ways.
It really is poetic, isn't it? And we talked about that the other day up in Kingsport. It was just, if he didn't have the injuries he had as a freshman and then again last year and getting an extra year from COVID, this never happens for him. In a weird way, kind of the way that his career's gone led to him having an opportunity to live a very strange dream for a kid from Kingsport who just really genuinely loves his regional fast food chain.
All that's left is maybe Sun Drop, to add that to his repertoire. But I can't believe nobody's endorsed that yet. That's my training drink of choice is Sun Drop, just because that's a very unique thing down here. Maybe you could endorse that, Mike.
Maybe. I'm open to it. They can contact me. My DMs are open.
By Mike Wilson. You heard him say, have at it,
Not
kids.
an opportunist though there.
Yes, have at him. DMs are open. Mike, thank you, man. Have a great weekend and enjoy seeing practice. It's a whole new world. You're not naughty. They want you to be there.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mike.
That's right. They are welcoming me in with arms wide open and ready to go.
Just like Creed with arms wide open. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Mike Wilson. Always getting in a one-liner or two. All right, it's time for us to get in some one-liners, and you too. We call our shot in the final segment of the show each Friday. You can get involved on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, 615-737-1045. You can hit us up in the chat on Zone TV, which, by the way, many of you are weighing in on farts and skillets. And why are you talking? Mason says, why have you guys been talking about UT? They've lost to Vandy 5 of the last 9 years. People getting their shots in on there. Why don't you call in and call your shot or hit us up there or even on Twitter at Blaine and Mickey. We call our shot next. It is Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Buck dives deep into a system QB.
All quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. This is one of the most ridiculous notions or labels. We have to assign labels to everything. System quarterback is a cliche, like game manager, or at least it's been turned into one.
The Buck Reising Show, Monday morning starting at 10 on 104.5 The Zone.
All right, this Bass Pro Shops in We'd love for you to do it. You can catch the Blaine and Mickey podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We would love for you to listen to all the Blaine and Mickey interviews and episodes and give us your feedback at any time by following us on Twitter at Blaine and Mickey. You may want to follow Josh Allen on whatever. Maybe he'll drop some money. Just follow him down the street. We knew he was going to get paid. I've always said this, and this son of a gun came along and he's making a liar out of me. Nobody ever leaves college and gets more accurate. It just never happens.
Typically, it does not.
So I'm always like, if that guy's like a 58% passer, that's who he is. It's only this dude got better and more accurate in the NFL, like better at everything. And you were talking in the break about his maturation process has been amazing to see.
Yeah, it is. Well, first of all, he came out. This is why he went first round. He had a big rock of an arm, and he was a great athlete.
Yep.
And so you say, okay, we can work with that. That's why he went first round. And then, especially when a big arm guy there in Buffalo with the weather conditions and everything else, you can tell how he's gotten better accurately, as throwing intermediate, short routes over the last 2 or 3 years. And then his athleticism, he can run the football as well. So he's going to be in the conversation, top 5 quarterbacks here in the next 2 or 3 years. He's already getting kind of some of that conversation. He was in the MVP conversation to a certain extent. He was top, 5, 6 guys that people were talking about at the quarterback position. So hats off to him, $43 million a year. And man, hats off to him for putting in the work, though. He put in a lot of work. So yeah, and a lot of people could see that, but you just never know the work ethic of a player, even at the quarterback position. That can he actually do it? You looked at the stats and what it says, and most people lean to that. And I did too. I was like, and then we didn't see a lot of him because he went to Wyoming, and he threw for a lot of yards, but he was a little inconsistent. You can say, it was his receivers. You could this and that. You can come up with any excuse you want to with anything, to be honest. I mean, they're coming up with excuses right now why Tannehill's throwing interceptions. I don't buy into that because I played the game. I don't buy into it. He didn't do it last year. So, it's okay. No, you're saying it's okay now because he's got the big contract and he's proven to you that he can play in a regular season game and he's very efficient. That's why you don't give your quarterback. For those who make money and those who perform, we ask the most out of. And so you practice who you are. That's what happens. There are no exceptions to that in the National Football League. None. So for those that, I'm not worried. No. You take heed to it. I'm not going to say you're going to worry about it, but you take heed to it. You don't hear people talking about Josh Allen throwing, 6 interceptions in the camp. I don't care who's running routes. Throw it in the dirt. Throw it low. Throw it outside. Throw it inside. Throw it over his head. Throw it out of bounds. It doesn't matter. So, yeah. $43 million, hey, man. Hats off to you. That has to be number one now, right? 43? That's number one, right?
It has to be. Now, Baker Mayfield's got to get his money. There's no way you pay him more than
Jackson,
that.
too.
And Lamar Jackson, too.
Is somebody else supposed to get paid?
It's Baker or Lamar are the next two guys because their contracts will be up. So, but I don't
know if they could. I would not pay them.
I wouldn't pay them more than that. I wouldn't. This is 6 years, $258 million. It's
$150 million guaranteed.
$150 million guaranteed.
Why is my hand shaking?
You told me
it just did that again.
Your thumb was shaking.
It just twitched like 3 times. Like, whoa, that's a lot of money.
6 years, $258 million, $150 million guaranteed.
That's NBA money right there, man.
That's NBA money.
Woo. Wow, man, we're finally getting there, getting closer, getting some guarantees. And only the quarterback, so then they just start trickling down to the other positions. Eventually, it'll get there.
It is crazy, though. They're guaranteeing people money now. And it used to just be, it was a non-starter.
With a signing bonus.
That was all your guaranteed money. And now it's like first-year salary, signing bonus, sometimes second-year salary guaranteed to get to that number. Guaranteed money in the NFL. Because agents are like, hey, man, this is what we want. And like this guy, Josh Allen, he just got it.
Congratulations. And, hey, by the way, we signed Matt Barkley. Hey, guess where he was at last year? Hey, give us some intel, Matt. We need some intel on the Bills' offense.
No doubt.
You were the number 2. You played in some games. You know the weaknesses of Allen, what he doesn't like, what he does like. Well, how should we attack him?
All right, we got to call our shot. We'll hurry through that. But first, people need to meet the hitman on Sunday.
Well, this is part of Call the Shot.
I'm
I'm gonna make it part
You're working
of
in your Sunday activity and to call the shot.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
Lucas Panzica, I can see him through 6 layers of glass and through the 2 working lights in here. What do you got, Lucas? What is your shot?
You mentioned USA women favored by 18 over Japan in the gold medal game. I've got it 18.5 on my BetMGM. I'm riding with that. They have been cruising. Don Staley and those girls have had no hiccups, unlike the men, who also could win gold. I wouldn't be surprised. But I've got USA women covering that 18.5 point spread in the final.
Yikes. Okay. It's a big number.
Yeah. Well, I got Nashville, Grand Prix, race here that's going to be here this weekend, right? Casanovas. Is that his name? That's how you pronounce it?
Castroneves. You were close.
Castroneves. Okay,
I
that was close. Okay.
I knew what you meant.
That sounds a little more cavalier, though.
I like that.
Casanova. I like either one. He knows.
He's
Listening. He knows who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm predicting he's going to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leo Castroneves.
Oh, can I add another shot?
Okay. Yes, it's your show, too.
Oh, what?
Roman Grosjean. I got Roman Grosjean this weekend on Sunday.
Who would that be?
Former Formula One driver racing on the track today or on Sunday.
Roman Grosjean. All right.
The guy who walked out of a ball of fire last season in Formula One.
He kind of grows on you. All right. What do you
Well done.
He kind of grows on you.
Thank you. All right.
Well, also, I'm doing something. Do you want to do your shot first before?
Yeah, mine's simple. You know me and my knowledge of soccer. Nashville SC is going to beat Miami 3-1 this weekend. Miami has less goals than games.
All right, Mickey.
They have less goals than games. They're going to get beat by 2, but they are going to sneak one in. 3-1, Nashville SC. Book it.
All right. Well, cool. Well, my shot is I will be this Sunday, in 2 days, guys
Sunday.
and ladies, 12-3. I will be at the Sports Performance Center, TOA, run by TOA, and a whole group and hosts of great doctors and trainers with Dr. Petty, Les Whitley, Martha George, as well as Anita Slaughter. We will be out at 1035 South Hartman Drive doing combine and assessments, bench press. Anybody want to come out and think they can beat me in the vertical, fastest shuttle time?
Yeah.
But, it's all fun and games, but also it's a new building for performance that they're doing from training there out there and getting everybody on the right track. So come and join us 12-3 Saturday at 1035 South Hartman Drive, Lebanon, Tennessee.
TOA.
Yeah, TOA.
Don't be MIA. Wow. The Grosjean and now this. I feel like you should just go to the next thing now, Lucas. I'm dropping my mic. Just go. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'm done. No more words.
And as always, stay safe. Peace. 3HL next.
Titans training camp coverage happens here. Bam! This is your exclusive home
for Titans football.